Penn State's 5-0, but its best test yet is this weekend. This is the Straight from the Crest podcast.
Hey, Straight from the Crest listeners. Stat Guy Chris here to remind you that this episode is brought to you in part by our friends over at Protocol Beverage. Made by a few dudes in Erie, PA who wondered, why doesn't zero-carb beer exist? Protocol's new light shift gives you the ultimate beer experience with 0 carbs, a mere 80 calories, and they're shifting to what light beer should be. Savor the crisp, refreshing taste without compromising on flavor. Thanks, Protocol.
A chance because this Michigan team can score. It's not like there's some stagnant bunch that relies on their defense.
I think he can win us games. I think, thank you for your service, Cliff. But, I go back and watch last year's
Maybe we've got a little baby version of Wendell White, Reggie Bush cooking with Katron Allen, Nick Singleton. Katron Allen runs the ball. Nobody wants to tackle and people bounce off of him.
Welcome back to the Straight from the Crest podcast. I'm your host, Michael David Kresvich. I hope everyone enjoyed yesterday's show where Garrett and I had Bo Nickel on. It's just Garrett today, and I'm equally as happy. Garrett, your Aggies won last weekend. The Nittany Lions won. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm nervous about this week. I'm not going to lie. But, good. And A&M looks good. Penn State looks good. I'm happy that I got two teams midway through the season still fighting it out. I
apologize, everyone. We didn't do this last week, but it is spooky season. And those unfamiliar with spooky season and Cocktober, it's just chaos in the month of October. And being down here in South Carolina, I thought they had a chance to beat Ole Miss. Ole Miss waxed them. But we're a Penn State football podcast, and that's what we're going to stick to. So Penn State comes away with the 27-10 win against UCLA. They did what they had to do, Garrett. They were better on third down. They didn't turn the ball over, and they won by double digits. But that slow start was still there. Gerber didn't start. They brought in their backup, Justin Martin, who threw 5 career passes and started the game 5 for 5. As you're watching that first quarter, and they're marching down the field with a quarterback who threw 5 passes, how concerned were you for the rest of the game or the rest of the season almost at that point?
Yeah. I wouldn't really say I was necessarily concerned for the game at that point. It was just like, I've seen this before, and I'm just still trying to figure it out. Is that who we are? Is this? I don't understand. It's a really hard team to peg down. Penn State is, so I'm trying to balance. Look, Alabama went and lost went to Vandy and lost this week, right? 5 of the top 11 teams in the country lost, a lot of which to unranked teams, and Miami was down by 25, which they're ranked 6th right now in the country. They were down 25 to Cal and had needed a miracle to come back and win. So I guess we should be just taking wins. I think we're going to find out a lot about this team this week. We're just going to. They go in and make a statement in the Coliseum that this is a legitimate Big Ten and national title contender. If it is, anywhere from just sloppy, struggling, and maybe a close win to a loss, it's going to be, I just don't know if we're up to be there with Oregon and the Ohio States of the Big Ten. So I just don't know. I gotta say, I just don't know what this team is. They're good. They're good at the line of scrimmage. They seem good on paper. But it just doesn't always look the smoothest ever. Even, they're great defensively, but hold them to 3 points most of the game until a garbage touchdown late against UCLA. But it didn't look amazing in the first half. So, I'm not really sure where to go with this, Mike. So I guess we'll break it down here.
Yeah, I'm fine with the win itself. Like, I think what we often do, which every media does, is when teams win, you nitpick. And we nitpick them at the beginning. We pointed to their third down success. We pointed to their slow starts. And listen, if we're winning games, who cares? Because as we know in the past, Penn State has played in some trap games where they didn't escape with a win. And we saw all those upsets happen last weekend. Just survive to Ohio State. That's all you have to do. Survive the back end of that schedule. Couple notes here. Tyler Warren scored his 17th touchdown. He is now Penn State's all-time leader in total touchdowns at the tight end position. Passes up Pat Freiermuth.
Super impressive.
Liam Clifford, first 100-yard career game on 3 catches, which is absurd. That was a nice spark to show him, to get out of him from that game. Anthony Donka will be available Saturday with USC, which is nice. And Nick Singleton did practice today. So those are a few notes here. But if you don't have anything else to say about the UCLA win, I don't know if you want to talk about Penn State's defense, the way that, I mean, they gave up a touchdown. That's it.
Yeah. No, I mean, the defense was solid. Again, it was just kind of a little bit, it was kind of, I don't want to say sloppy. They were just able to convert. UCLA was able to convert early on third down. The defense definitely tightens up as the game goes on, was just absolutely getting after the quarterback in the second half. Very workmanlike. The range is this for me in my head. Are we Michigan and Georgia of the last couple of years that, they play these teams and they would clearly dominate the game, watching it, but the game was always kind of not close, but it was in that, they weren't really covering, but it was a comfortable win. They dominated the line of scrimmage and ran the ball for 200, 250 yards, played great defense. And then when they played a real big team, it was like, man, I just don't know if they can win it. And then they just do the same thing to that good team. Are we that, or is this, just kind of flying by, playing competition that's not that very good? And then when we play a USC team that, we'll get into this, could just as easily be ranked 5th or 6th in the country right now, rather than non-ranked. And it ends up being a struggle fest. Like, I just don't know. This is one of the more, there's a big range. And again, we are talking with the standard of what we're wanting to be, which is a national title contender, right? If we're trying to be 10-2, 9-3, I think we're well on our way to doing that. I think we're in perfect position to do that. Can we go 11-1? Can we compete for a Big Ten championship? Can we compete for, getting to the Final Four of the college football playoff? That's the standard we're trying to kind of hold the team against right now, which I think is fair.
Yeah. I almost said Sean Clifford. Wow. Drew Aller had a touchdown on the ground, ran one in. Just an efficient day from him. And I think what I'm seeing a lot of people calling him a game manager, which I don't think he is. I just think the way Andy Koldnick is using him right now is in the best way to do that. He's not turning the ball over. His numbers look comparable to last year, but he is not the same quarterback he was last year. He has a stronger, I don't know if necessarily stronger arm. He is more confident in his throws. Also thought Katron Allen stepped up in a big spot, being that number one running back. And the talent necessarily wasn't there against UCLA, but he played a serviceable enough game to help out the run game. I thought the O-line, after Donka went down, Rucci came in and played well up front. But it'll be nice having him back there. And now kind of the real stretch starts. 3:30 this Saturday. This is Friday as this podcast comes out. So tomorrow at the LA Coliseum, Penn State hits the road to face a 3-2 USC team. It's a team that brings back 16 starters. They're not the USC team from last year. They are greatly improved on their defensive end. They have a very talented offense. They lost 3 starters on the O-line, but that's probably their weakest part. They have talent all around. Lincoln Riley enters year 3 on the staff. And you know who their defense coordinator is, Garrett? Former Penn State player.
Lynn, right?
Yeah, D'Anton Lynn. Yeah,
D'Anton Lynn. Yep.
Yeah, played around 2008, 2010, little linebacker corner. But he's has their defense playing very well.
Yep.
USC is 6-4 all time against Penn State. Has won the last 3, covered in the last 2. Last 2 times these teams met, Penn State blew a 14-point lead. USC rattled off 17 unanswered. And both offenses combined for 1,000 yards in that Rose Bowl game. I also did see Sam Darnold will be leading the team out of the tunnel and be the honorary captain for the Trojans this weekend. So
yeah, that brings back good memories.
Yeah, and of course, Juju Smith-Schuster, who hasn't played that well since college, went for 100 yards the other night on Monday Night Football. So it's just signs aren't pointing any lines away. But this is a Trojan team, Garrett. They're 3-2 on the season. They opened up won the neutral site game over LSU, 48-0 shutout over Utah State, lost by 3 at Michigan, handled Wisconsin home, but last weekend they fell to Minnesota by 7, and Minnesota held Miller Moss to his season low 200 yards through the air. What have you seen on film from this USC team, and what should Penn State be looking out for?
Yeah, I've really watched 2 full games of this team. Clearly very improved on defense. Moving from Alex Grinch as the defensive coordinator to Lynn was obviously a good move. Lincoln Riley has talked a lot about their ability to kind of change the culture of the team. Lincoln Riley is obviously a very offensive minded. When you think of him, very offensive minded. And they've always played that way. His teams have always played that way. This team is a little bit more tries to be more physical and plays more defense. The issue with USC, and again, this is why I'm nervous about this game, is the kind of the optics of it, of Penn State being ranked 4th in the country and USC being non-ranked. When, keep in mind, last week, and rankings are a made-up thing, but Penn State was ranked 7th and USC was ranked 11th, and they lost the last second against Minnesota. USC lost at the last second against Michigan. I just want people to understand that they could just as this could be a 4 versus 5 game on the road in a hostile environment, three time zones away. So this is a good team. They have a lot of firepower. They remind me a bit of like the 2016, 2017 Penn State teams, where they're good in the skill positions. They have a good quarterback. They have a serviceable defense, but they're not great at the line of scrimmage. They're very thin at the line of scrimmage. And so to me, the game really comes down to, the line of scrimmage and run game, which we'll talk a little bit more about that, where there's big disparities there. Turnovers, big disparities there. And that's a very random stat. Penn State's been very good with turnovers this year. USC has not. And then, third down, USC's very good on third down, both offensively and defensively. And then lastly, the wild card is going to be Zachariah Branch, and a playmaker for USC who's going to has the ability to return kicks, punts, can make plays, big plays, a former 5-star. And so those real 4 things to me are the breakdown. And statistically, outside of Branch, everything works Penn State's direction. But there's only one that's really controllable, and that's the line of scrimmage. And so I think it comes down to those 4 things, but it's going to come down in the end to how well does Penn State take care of the ball and how much do they dominate at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. So for the last 3 weeks, Garrett and I have played on NCAA, the team that Penn State goes against. And I will say last week, or the last time we did it was the Illinois game, actually. We skipped UCLA, but whoever was Penn State won, and Garrett and I played last night, and Garrett was Penn State, I was USC. Garrett won in a thriller. So if that's anything to tell. But yeah, you mentioned Branch. Woody Marks is their leading rusher. He's got nearly 470 yards, 4 touchdowns. Very talented receivers outside of Branch. They have Kyron Hudson and Jacoby Lane. They all have 200 yards, but Lane's actually the one with the receiving touchdown. But Branch is used in much more than receiving. And Garrett, I kind of want to talk now that you made shadow to UFC's UFC. Sorry, I'm still in Bo
He's doing UFC
mode. So we talked about how much improved this Trojan defense is, but from a pass rush rate, they're not much better. They have 6 sacks this season and rank 92nd in pass rush grade. Only 4 teams own a lower pressure rate in the Power 5, but USC blitzes more than every team in the country. So they blitz a lot and they're not getting home, which gives Penn State an incredible advantage because they have a quarterback who's very efficient at quick reads and getting the ball out, and that favors the Nittany Lions. What are you looking forward to seeing from Penn State's offense this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, and to your point, I mean, USC is, 108. Every stat that we're going to read off is so slanted to Penn State at the line of scrimmage. It's kind of remarkable. I mean, the USC is 108th in sacks allowed. Penn State is 6th overall in the country in sacks. USC is 120th in pass rush. Penn State's in 6th in total pass rush. But explosiveness offensively, Penn State is 5th in the country in explosiveness, which it just doesn't. It feels like it in some ways, but doesn't feel like it in other ways. I just feel like we've had explosive plays that haven't gone for touchdowns, and we haven't then converted the touchdowns, right? It's kind of been when you make that big play playing NCAA and you can't punch it in the end, you got to settle for 3, you get stopped on 4th down. That's kind of what Penn State's been. But Penn State's 5th in the country in explosiveness. USC is over like 50th in the country in explosive rate allowed. They've given up rushes of over 60. A 57-yard rush, a 48-yard rush, and I think it's been 5 total rushes over 400 yards, or I'm sorry, over 40 yards. That just spells to me big runs by Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton all day Saturday. And then I'm just trying to make sure I don't miss anything. But Penn State is 4th in total rush offense and rush offense efficiency, and USC is 78th in rush defense efficiency. And so, again, it's such a disparity at the line of scrimmage. Part of me says, man, this should be a Michigan over Penn State performance over like the last couple of years. It should be just, almost 2 years ago at the Big House where, Michigan ran for 400 yards. It should be that. But again, this is football. They're on the road, 3 time zones. The routine, we've talked a lot about the routine this week and how it's going to be different, driving to Harrisburg to fly out from there instead of State College. There's just so many different things that go into it. It's a how well can Penn State handle those things to actually make it purely about the football? Because if there isn't a lot of distraction, if they're able to kind of be not knocked off their kind of their rhythm, it should be something where Penn State has the advantage because they have such an advantage at the line of scrimmage.
I think so too. This is, of course, we've seen these East Coast teams traveling to the West Coast and West Coast teams traveling to the East Coast and struggling. This is Penn State's first test with this new Big Ten. You mentioned the flight situation. Like it is hard for teams. Like Penn State's furthest trip west ever was Indiana, technically Iowa, I guess it would have been.
Yeah.
For a game in October, and this is nice for Penn State. Luckily, they didn't have a very physical Bruins team to go against last week, but USC is going to be pumped up. Like that's going to be a great atmosphere. I'm excited to watch it on CBS. First of all, it's going to be weird. Just hearing Brad Nessler call the game, I'm still not used
Uncle
to
Gary.
that. Yeah, Uncle Gary as well. The goat's on the call, but I would say like Penn State's got to match their talent, and we always harp on these Liam Clifford stepping up and these other playmakers, Julian Plumbing. I don't think Penn State needs to do that. I think if they control the line of scrimmage and don't turn the ball over and get after the quarterback, I would like to see more pass rush from Penn State. They did get 2 sacks last week, but one of them was a combined. Also, Penn State's done a great job of taking care of the ball and taking it away, and they need to continue to do that. I mean, we sound like a broken record, but if they just keep winning, that's all that matters. Just win. Al Davis said it best. Just win, baby. That's all they got to do.
Yeah. And there obviously there's those things like those winning plays you have to make. And so, I think turnovers are going to be massive in this game. Penn State has been +4 in the in turnover ratio. USC has been -2. And again, I think that just makes such a massive difference. I can't stress enough that like if USC is not -2 and they're +2, they're 5-0 and ranked 5th in the country right now. It's as simple as that. And so this is a top 10 caliber team, a top 10 caliber talent. They beat a very good LSU team week 1. Took the former national champions down to the wire under the last minute at Michigan, and really controlled the second half of that game. And obviously Michigan is a shell of what it was last year. But I mean that those points we hit, the turnovers, you have to control explosive plays on their end. I think another concern is I don't know what this defense truly is yet, Mike. I am a little bit worried that this is like a 2016 to 2018 defense that we have. And again, I don't know. I'm going to find out Saturday, where they were fantastic against the Georgia States and the Indianas and the Rutgers and just not letting teams score in top 5 in the country, top 10 in the country. And then Ohio State give up 39 points against Michigan, 35 points. And then some random team would just pick us apart defensively in the secondary. It was always the secondary. The front 7 was always solid. I'm worried about the secondary a little bit. We've seen teams have a lot of success. Lincoln Riley is a great schematic offensive coordinator. Miller Moss is a very good quarterback with 5-star receivers. And Mark's obviously, like we talked about, being a very explosive and dynamic running back. They have the weapons to just, if we get off to a slow start, look up and it's like, boom, USC's up 14-0. That absolutely can be the case. That's my concern. That's my biggest kind of negative / concern. And probably where I'm least confident is going to be, what does the secondary do?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a chess match, man. Colt Nickey against Lincoln Riley against Tom Allen. Like, it's going to be I think it's going to be a low scoring game. I do. I think I think Lynn's going to find a way to limit Tyler Warren. I think Colt Nickey's, he might struggle, or Drew might struggle early, but I think at the end of it, we're not going to do predictions yet, but it's going to be a battle. This is Penn State's biggest test. Like, Illinois was a formidable opponent, but this is a different kind of talent that Penn State's going up against. And you made the point of their defense. We don't know how good Penn State's defense is. They allowed almost 30 points to Bowling Green, who is probably going to win 6 games this year. USC and it kind of LSU slipped up a little bit, but this team beat LSU. They are, and they went down to the wire, should have beaten Michigan. But yeah, man, it's going to be a chess match with the coordinator on coordinator there. Who's scoring the first touchdown for Penn State? I'm seeing the line at like what, Penn State 3.5?
Yeah, 3.5.
Okay.
I think, I like, who's our best player, who's our most dynamic player, Tyler Warren. I feel like finding Tyler Warren, for the first touchdown. I don't know when the first touchdown will be per se. But I think that he's going to end up scoring the first one. And again, I think if the more that he is able to make plays, he hasn't been wildly involved the last several weeks. If he can have a night to have an 8 or 10 receptions for over 100-yard game, a best tight end in the country performance, this would be the week to do it. That would go a long way to helping Penn State find a way to win this game.
Score prediction.
Yeah. People aren't going to like this. We are very due for just 2 turnovers, not play very well. I think of 2019 on the road at Minnesota. I think of some other games. This is I don't have a great feeling about it, because I think you're going to look at the stat sheet and say, man, we did a lot of the things to win. I think we're going to run the ball well. I don't think Drew's going to play poor. I need to see more. We need to see that. That's another thing real quick. And I know you were looking for a score prediction, but I want to touch on, like, how much has the offense opened up for Drew this weekend? Is this everything that we have, or are we hiding some stuff? Are we allowing him to play a little bit more? The USC secondary isn't great by any means. I mean, Minnesota went 15 for 18 passing for 160 yards, 170 yards, was very efficient. With all that being said, I just think, and maybe this is reverse psychology, but I just think we're due to have like a -2 turnover game, three time zones over. I think Zachariah Branch is going to have a day. I really do. So I think the game is close. I think it's a toss-up. I just think that USC finds a way to win it, and they win it 24-21, something like that, 23-20, right in that range. I think they're up early. I think we take the lead late, and then USC does something late to find a way to win the game at home in the Coliseum.
Yeah, my prediction is not too far off of yours. I think we're going to learn a lot about this game by how these teams come out and play the first quarter. Penn State can't afford that early deficit. This team's too talented to overcome that, and Penn State's not experienced enough to face adversity against a good team on the road 3 time zones over. I think if Penn State can avoid a slow start, I think if Penn State can take care of the ball, I think they can win this game 20-17. But I'm with you. My confidence isn't there. I don't think this is a slip-up game. I think this is a game that we're very, very tested against a very good team, and they find a way to win. I hope so, but I could see it going either way. I could see USC winning this game as well. But my prediction, give me the Nittany Lions in the under. And it's part of just the slate Saturday. Ohio State, Oregon, South Carolina, Bama, Texas, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, LSU. Just monster Saturday slate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all those games, like you mentioned, and we saw last week, like this season, we don't know how good Ohio State is. Obviously, they're going to be on the road at Oregon. We don't know how good they are truly, because they haven't played anybody. We don't truly know how good Oregon is yet either. And so we'll find out a lot about a lot of people. I mean, Alabama just lost to Vanderbilt the week after being 28-0 on Georgia, who was ranked first in the country. What a win would mean, though, for Penn State, if they could be somewhat convincing this week, this is their mulligan game. A mulligan in golf, right? Like, you don't want to use it early. You want to hold on to it late just in case, right? You can win this game. You're going to be 7-0 going to Ohio State, because I don't think we're going to lose actually the most Jimmy game would be winning this game than losing at Wisconsin, but I don't think that would happen because Wisconsin can't play offense. And so you're going to be at home 7-0 against Ohio State, potentially a top 3 or 4 matchup. You can lose that game and then lose another one and still be in the playoff if you can win this game. And so I just think it's such a massive game, because you don't want to burn your mulligan now. You want to take care of business, a team you can win. And we pointed out preseason, this was the game. Ohio State, we know is going to be hard. This is the other game, right? And so Penn State hasn't won the other game in a few years. They've always lost to the two big ones.
They're Michigan this year. It's our Michigan game.
Absolutely. It's time to win one of these. So, I think we can. I'm picking against us. Not because I don't have faith, but just because I just think we're due for one of those games because we haven't had them. But yeah, this slate this weekend's wild. I mean, obviously OU and Texas, Oregon, and Ohio State, and then our teams that we enjoy watching, Ole Miss and LSU playing Saturday night as well. What's your pick?
My pick for the
you already picked it. My bad. I'm so spooked by this game, and it's spooky season.
It's spooky
obviously
season.
That it's like I can't even remember. Like when I saw those rankings come out Saturday, I probably texted 7 different people. I'm like, no. Michael Scott, no, God, please, no. So, yeah, your pick is Penn State winning. I remember now.
This is the Silas. I know I told you this earlier this week, but it's the Silas Red revenge game.
Yeah, that's real spooky.
This wasn't on the agenda, and usually we'll draft our favorite alumnus from the team, but just give me your top because USC has plenty. I know who you're gonna say actually.
O.J. Simpson.
No, your favorite actor ever.
Oh, Will Ferrell. Yeah, absolutely. We were just watching O.J. Simpson documentary, who I met, by the way, fun fact, after he got out of jail the second time. But yeah, I'll go Will Ferrell. Love Will Ferrell. Love the other guys. Mikey's a newcomer to the other guys, which somehow he just watched in the last couple months. But yeah, that'll be my pick. That'll be my top pick.
I'm trying to think
I guarantee you he'll be on the sideline.
I'm trying to think of some pun with White Bronco heading west to there, but I don't want to say anything.
Peyton Manning playing quarterback.
Yeah, I guess. But mine's Tyron Smith, he's a Jet now, but Cowboys legend there.
Mm-hmm.
But just there's a lot of them. I don't know, man. Great weekend for football. Hopefully they're able to pull it off. But we will be back next week. Preview. Actually, we have a bye next week.
Mm-hmm. So we'll preview the bye.
We'll talk about how we can't lose the bye because you can't win it, but you can lose a bye week.
Absolutely. So
but now I'm hoping Singleton's ready to roll. Drew's just got to be efficient, take care of the ball, get after get after Moss, and take care of business. But thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Mikey. Appreciate it, man.